CAS SPAA 10.3+. Airfield has not been moved to 20 kilometers from battlefield, leaving spawned planes in range of Panzer. CAS does not spawn in weapons range, but SPAA does. CAS spawns outside of lock range, but SPAA can lock as soon as CAS is spawned. This applies to both drones and jets. This is not logical, and should be changed by either moving spawns back or bringing them forward. Airfield function. Airfield SPAA should be disabled when there are less than 3 enemies remaining. 1 def leavers drones. You include drones to encourage 1 def leaving. Why is 1 def leaving not rewarded with a 50% SL booster as well? The QN506 missiles are non-functioning. You must do something. There is no other option for Chinese IFVs. You are not doing your job. You must fix them. Drones are still in the game. Why? Why are drones not limited to 11-7 games? Why do you insist on making the game worse for your players? QN506 FNF missile lock. Missile detonates mid-air without finishing tracking despite no obstacles blocking missile. Missile does not lock despite 60% of view of enemy tank. Advance to the Rhine roof modeling. Hitboxes of destroyed buildings are not accurate. Tunisia hitbox. Between rocks, landside sand, hitbox comes off ground. What bespoke mental handicap is responsible for the Zerinyi? There needs to be an investigation done into how a tank is modelled so poorly. When is France getting a tech tree IFV? What dates can we expect it to be added? There is no reasonable excuse for the QN506 not having its Enlos missiles. Helicopters can already engage ground targets out of their effective range to return fire. Why is there an exception being made for another ground vehicle? Why is Heat FS still the starting round at top tier? When is this being changed to produce a fair gaming environment? Terms 3, or in other words, how I learned the sin of greed. AMX-30 has no stabilizer and a 20mm coax. Terms 3 has a 2-plane stabilizer and a 30mm coax. Historically inaccurate mechanics. Why do helicopters not have bulletproof glass? Terms 3, death make note. If there's no vehicle variety, why bother wasting developmental resources making new vehicles? Apache helicopter missing armor. There is absolutely no justification for not modeling armor onto the Apache helicopter. It is the most inane mistake this company has made. Born from intentional laziness or unintentional asinine oversight, it needs to be fixed. You are unwilling to update your engine to render correctly, so remove the hitbox. If you are unwilling to update your engine to render projectiles as actual projectiles, then update the models of tanks to not render a hitbox or 5mm side plates of armor, which with the current system are rendered as 1000mm thick. Sound is overlapped. When are you going to rework your sound engine so noises aren't turned off due to overlap? Until you are able to model multi-system anti-aircraft CAS needs to be disabled 10.3+. Ground is currently not ground, it is air. The mode is mislabeled and should be edited. Apache flies like it has armor modeled, but it doesn't have armor modeled. When will you fix modeling issues? Sound engine. Engine noises overlap and do not produce sound. Campania hitbox. Coming over the mountain cliff near the waterfall has an invisible collision box. Low main rotor RPM reduce COL. Why is this flashing? What is wrong with your game? Apache helicopters are not made of paper. I'm once again not able to convey what needs to occur. Why are jets modeled to have more armor than helicopters? Real shatter. Remove tree hitboxes until you are able to properly model them. They are not accurate to the model of the tree. Remove them if you are unwilling to fix them. Sun City spawn camp rocks. Rocks are placed that are accessible outside of the spawn detection zone, allowing spawn camping. When is regenerative steering going to be modeled? While Russian win rates remain lopsided, why are NATO tanks not able to take full benefit of their engines? Why is the Stellar at 9.3 after every 8.3 tank was moved to 8.7? This tank is fundamentally stronger than any other SPAAG at the same BR range, yet it remains under-tiered and now prevalent against subsonic jets. Russian fuel tank explosions do not kill crew. When are Russian fuel tanks going to be installed on NATO MBTs to offer similar protection? War Thunder is pay to win. Low tier is dominated by bush-ridden tanks, preventing you from seeing weak spots or the tank in general. High tier is dominated by rank 7 CAS bought for $70. Restrict APF SDS shells behind Golden Eagles and stop lying to your player base. Why isn't the Su-25K 10-7? It has 30G all-aspect missiles. Why are Russian fuel tanks modelled as ERA? Why has every Russian tank had their fuel tanks modelled as ERA? Centurion Mark 10 8.0 is before Conqueror 7.7. This needs to be changed. Such obvious mistakes represent serious concerns. Carnarvon. The repair cost of this tank does not match its performance in-game. Apache tail is fat, yet comes off from light gunfire. A hollow aluminium tail should not explode on contact with a 7.62mm bullet passing through it. Pradesh needs to have the mountains cut down. Helipad placement does not allow return to the helipad for refuel due to the scale of the mountains. Enable helipad SPAA if the target is sitting within 100 meters. Yes, you can't have it just blast any plane going near the enemy side of the map. No, it's not acceptable to allow such blatant spawn camping without more immunity protections. Add the ability to transfer SL rates to RP rate and vice versa. Let us customize how we are focusing our grind. Allow us to switch our modifiers around to count completely towards one or another. You can make the transfer rate 50% efficient if you think it would be too strong, and to allow punishment for having the focus. Campania is enabled 6.7 plus without spawn protection. This map needs to be restricted to BRs where cross-map shots are not easily made and one-shots are less frequent due to ammunition and armor differences. Arctic Pier Spawn Camp. You can camp across the map. Also, Maginot Line Spawn Camp can do the same. Yak 9T acceleration goes against physics. The acceleration of this plane is not real. Collision does not kill team kill penalty. Find a way to detect friendly collision or remove repair cost from friendly collision. Ground is given one use access fire extinguisher by default but not air. Ground is given one use access fire extinguisher by default but not air. Why is the Type 74 E90 instead of 87? This tank does not have outstanding mobility or reload, or even gun depression. It does not have thermals. All it has is a lol pen round and a laser rangefinder. The armor is barely functional, even when the side armor is atrocious. Stop splitting apart lineups without serious and legitimate justifications. The lack of lineups leads to so many more balancing issues than just having a tank that's a bit annoying at 0.3 less BR. Why is Short Poland still available? 6.7 plus BR. What is the justification for such ineptitude? The mechanics of this game do not justify the repair cost of late heavies. All Cold War heavies are overpriced in their repair costs and do not represent the realities of the game. Any tank with a repair cost of a 7000 SL that doesn't have a 300% SL modifier is a showcase of greed. Why is the Leclerc's armor modeled to only protect 500mm RHA? Why is a modern NATO tank not modeled to defend against standard NATO rounds? Why are Leclerc tanks modeled to contain gasoline instead of diesel? The interior fuel tank of the Leclerc explodes unrealistically. They should only explode due to impact of heat FS or other chemical munitions, which would create temperatures necessary to detonate diesel. 6 out of 8. I've driven to the enemy spawn and spawn killed 3 people. Why do I have crew lock? Why do I need to take out another tank in a dead match? Why are you encouraging me to continue spawn killing? Cargo port container modeling. Some cargo containers are hollow, while others are not. There is no consistency to this, and it is not enjoyable to shoot through a container to find out for some reason it is modeled as solid, whereas 10 feet over one is hollow. Leopard A1A1 is 9.0, but the T-55AM1 and the AMD1 are 8.7. Sweet Gaijin. Why is the Roland 1 missile speed only 500 meters per second? Max speed is supposed to be Mach 1.6. Can APDS shatter on a log? Is it possible for an 84mm shell going at 1430 meters per second to shatter upon impact with wood? If the automatic is 11.3, then why isn't the ZA-35 11.7? Why is only Italy forced to survive for their SPAA being better at killing ground than air? Why does Britain get death bus? Scout drones do not have a model. A small plastic camera with a propeller attached should not survive a 163mm explosive with 6.81 kilos of TNT. Advance to the Rhine is still playable 7.7 plus BR range. Where does SPAA go on this map to engage air targets, while giving enough cover to avoid being shot by enemy vehicles? Type 62-5E necessary addition to fill 93117 SPAA gap. China has a 10-7 lineup but no support vehicles. The QN506 edition, despite being an event vehicle, will at least continue to fulfill the role of IFV. The AFT-09 is a very functional missile carrier. Where are the SPAA options? Drones are enabled 10.3 onwards, yet there is no radar tracking SPAA option. We are stuck with 10 GSAMs. QN506 cook-off. Any ammo detonation leads to cook-off, which guarantees death of the crew. This is not modeled correctly. There is no data which would lead to believe that a modern retrofitted vehicle with exterior ammo would suffer adverse effects from burning ammo on the outside of the tank. Remodel it. Shot performance camera is not always shown. This should be changed. Not showing the shot performance camera is inexcusable. It is necessary visual indication for the player to understand how they were killed, showing where the round penetrated, allowing the player to adjust their playstyle. Failing to show your player-based critical information for their game performance is a lapse of judgment. Apache is weighted to contain armor, but does not contain armor. Where is the Apache's armor? It is meant to resist up to 23mm cannons. Rearrange. Move the T-3457 to 5.0. Move the T-34E to 4.3. Move the KV-85 to 5.0. Move the ISU-152 to 5.7. Move the PT-76B to 6.0. Eastern Europe, domination. Place a spawn on the other side of the river. I don't know why this is such a complicated thing for the developers. Map design has been a field in gaming for years now. Are you hiring? Term 3 is not 8.7, but the AMX-30 is. This is an insane imbalance. Spore liners are not modelled, but fuel tanks absorb spore. Why? Why hasn't this modern development been implemented by fuel tanks are modelled to act as such? How does this work? What causes this ammo to perform so well? Disable Conquest number 1 Ash River. Single point mission types on maps is small, are toxic for players. Conquest number 2 Volokholamsk. Enable fast tick while there are 2 players alive after the slog you put us through on the map variation is not really fun. Thanks for wasting your players' time. I know you care very little about it. Barrels should not have armor coded. The game cannot render armor well enough for barrels to be justified in having more than approximately 40mm of armor to prevent destruction by 50 cals. It's insane that a 75mm shell cannot destroy a barrel. Airfield SPAA has a delayed reaction that lies to the player about their range. Ground RB Airfield SPAA does not begin firing until you're within 1 kilometer of its firing range. Turning back out of its range results in death. Lying to your player base is never a good decision choice. Push airfields further back, stop coddling players by spawning them with 2 kilometers of their airfield. This increases cast frequency due to short rearm times and increases airfield camping since you can sortie out of its range to effectively cover the battlefield, then return within 1 minute flight time. Allow us to select what area of our tank we want repaired first. Focus mobility, focus firepower. Can't machine gun bushes. Disable bushes until they have been reworked to follow physics and have hitboxes consistent with their model. If you are unwilling to code spore liners, then fuel tanks should not absorb spore, giving 90% of Russian tanks an undue advantage because you refuse to code spore liners is not healthy for the game. Disable bushes until proper modeling is enabled. This is stupid. Maginot Line too frequent in map pool. Repeating the same map over and over again is detrimental to your player's enjoyment. P8, 20mm turrets, 4-3. 4-3 to 6-0. Spawn point cost of air needs to be tripled. CAS is too strong and is too easily accessed. It should be a reward for players who have fought well and done their part for the team. It should not be something that can be rushed and spammed to anyone with a light tank. Air spawns less than 4.7 are too close to the battlefield. Spawning planes within 1,000 meters of the battlefield is half of the problem with CAS. Leclerc lacks historical round, yet is underperforming. When is France going to be given a functional MBT? When is the expected timeline for France being given a tech triathlon? I would like to know when France will become viable at top tier. Why is the 7th sector traversable if you're not going to allow the 8th sector to be passable on Maginot Line? Is this an issue with my understanding of the size of the APFSDS, or is it an error in the game's building's hitboxes? I have been holding this angle steadily without moving my cursor as I was tracked. Why is drone altitude spawn still so high? Do drones in real life operate so high? Why would you operate a drone at high altitude where it can be detected? Can the option to change spawn of a lower altitude at least be added as a second spawn if you're unwilling to adjust it? The Leclerc's fuel tanks explode as if they were designed like an ammo carousel that sat right under the crew. I do not understand this design flaw and whether it is being modeled correctly in the game. SPAA needs to have smokeless motors added. RWR is modeled in game, let players play realistically. Map design does not take into account positioning for SPAA, larger spawn detection zones, and widen ends of the maps to provide maneuver room for SPAA. The lack of development for 10 years in map design is a sign of stagnation. The developers responsible for it have constantly failed to take into account the needs of vehicles playing the game. Is this a bug, or am I misunderstanding mechanics on the ITO 90M VT1? Am I stupid? Restrict battle less than 6.7. This game mode completely removes all map design and wastes players' time. SBMM is necessary for the health of the game. Placing skilled players alongside meat is breeding toxic interactions. If you're going to leave the Su-25K at 10-0, then can me 30mm high explosive round shred it. Real shatter should be disabled on airframes that are so insanely bugged. SPAA needs a way to rearm from spawn. There is absolutely no justification for SPAA to not be able to reload in spawn. Air is already able to fly back to the airfield and rearm safely. There is no reason SPAA should not be granted the same thing. Disable battle less than 8.7. Low BR games are slow and do not favor long-range gameplay. Forcing attrition gameplay compounds this effect threefold and results in 90% of spawn camping situations due to static fighting not suiting efficient flanking. Why is the G-Lynx 10-0? It has ATAS missiles. BR-471B overperforms against added armor. APDS is modeled to lose penetration on contact with multiple pieces. Why isn't tumbling modeled the same way? This round should not be able to penetrate multiple slats of armor. M6A1, 5-0, no reverse speed. T1E1 eclipses it. 5-0 to 4-7. If a vehicle is destroyed by CAS, the repair cost should be halved. Punishing users for gameplay outside of their control is illogical. Why is there so much handholding in air-realistic battles? Why are you telling people that a missile has been launched instead of letting them use their eyes or brain to think, someone is on my tail, I should shake them off? All of these were a collection of posts from one individual on the forums over the last month and a half. Now, what these posts show is pretty much a simple thing. This individual is playing every day, and whenever something happens to him or her in the game, what they end up doing is posting about it on the forums, showing that there is a constant stream of information going through their head all the time, and it's all based around what they're playing at the time. Now, the reason why I'm highlighting this is because how can you focus on specific issues if people's opinions and topics and everything are constantly changing, where even some of these posts, they're made 3 or 4 times a day by the same person talking about different things? How are you supposed to nail down the stuff that is supposed to be gone through from a player's perspective? Understand that this is one person out of hundreds of thousands, and this is how scattered the ideas are all over the place. How is somebody supposed to sit down and kind of sift through all of this stuff, plus everybody else's, many people doing the same thing, and then also going and, finding what are seen as the useful things, or even taking everything into account, just like a lot of people want? This person has posted 60 to 90 posts over a month's period, which means that if you even have, let's say, 100 people doing that, then you have so many posts to deal with on a per daily basis, it becomes untenable. How do you deal with a situation like that? And how do you listen to, quote unquote, the community when you have stuff like this? What are the solutions? It's interesting to think about, by the way. I'm not going to put the poster's name in the description. Some of you guys will probably be able to find the posts on the forums, but I'm fine with people doing this. It's just good to point out, how do you deal with so much information at so many different varying topics, and also understand that all of them are completely based around what the individual is playing that day. So their opinions can literally be formed by just the fact that they're playing a certain vehicle, or the fact that they're playing, or the fact that they're playing a certain BR range on that day, and that's the thing that they're focused on. And it may even change the next day, because a lot of these things do change on a daily basis, not just from the player perspective, but also from the game perspective. Also, at the same time, he does play a lot of nations, but doesn't have a lot of things spaded, and is a France main, funnily enough. So it is interesting to at least look at. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.